Two delegations, one city, and one of them says the meeting isn't happening. Right now, as you watch this, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are somewhere over the Middle East on a plane to Islamabad, Pakistan. The White House said officially from the podium that they are flying there for direct peace talks with Iran. Iran's foreign ministry responded within hours, there are no talks planned, no meeting. Iran's foreign minister is also flying to Islamabad on the same day. He says he's meeting Pakistani officials, not Americans. Two delegations, same city, same day, and one side says the meeting doesn't exist. Before you keep watching, if you follow this war daily and you want the verified picture without the spin, drop a comment right now with the word Hormuz. It tells us you're here. It tells us this matters. So what is actually happening in that gap between a White House announcement and an Iranian denial? That question is the one nobody in official Washington has answered. And the answer, when you look at the full picture of the last 48 hours, is more complicated and more dangerous than either side's statement suggests. Stay with this, because what comes next changes how you read everything both governments have said this week. This is day 57 of Operation Epic Fury. The war that Donald Trump promised would be over in 2 to 4 weeks began on February 28th. The ceasefire he announced on April 8th was designed to last 2 weeks. On April 21st, it was extended, not for another 2 weeks, not for a month, indefinitely. No deadline, no expiration. Trump was asked Thursday in the Oval Office how long he was willing to wait for a deal. His answer? Don't rush me. The man who said the war would last weeks is now asking not to be rushed toward an everlasting agreement, his word, everlasting, while the Strait of Hormuz carries 12 ships a day instead of 150. If you've been tracking this conflict, share this update right now. The picture on day 57 is one most people haven't seen assembled in one place. Here is what has been confirmed in the last 48 hours, and here is why it matters. The Pentagon confirmed that the United States has redirected 33 ships under its naval blockade of Iranian ports near the Strait of Hormuz. A classified intelligence briefing given to the House Armed Services Committee, first reported by the Washington Post and confirmed to CNN by a source familiar with its contents, found that it could take up to 6 months to fully clear the strait of Iranian-laid mines after the war ends. 6 months after the war ends, the war has not ended, the ceasefire is indefinite, the mines are in the water now. The 6-month clock does not start until a deal is signed. The deal has not been proposed. It has not been scheduled. It has not been agreed to by both sides, even as a concept. And on Friday, oil closed above $15 per barrel, its highest sustained level since the war began. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the blockade will continue for as long as it takes. Trump wants an everlasting deal and says, don't rush him. Those two phrases, taken together, define the American strategic posture on day 57 as one with no deadline, no timeline, and no expiration. The specific gap between the two sides, America demanding 20 years of nuclear enrichment suspension, Iran offering 3 to 5, has not moved by a single documented day since the Islamabad talks collapsed on April 12th. Not one day. Iran's response to the as long as it takes posture came not from one official, but 3, within the same 48-hour window, with the same coordinated message. Iranian President Pezeshkian, Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf, and the head of Iran's judiciary all issued coordinated public statements directly contradicting Trump's posts to Truth Social, where Trump has been claiming Iran's government is fractured, that hardliners and moderates are fighting each other, that Iran doesn't know who its leader is. 3 of Iran's most senior officials issued a unified denial within 48 hours. The coordination itself is the message. Iran is reading Trump's social media. Iran is answering collectively. And Iran's foreign ministry says there is no meeting planned in Islamabad, even as the American delegation boards their flight. Former U.S. Ambassador to Bahrain, Adam Areli, issued a structural warning this week that the "as long as it takes" posture has not accounted for. Iran has lived under American sanctions since 1979. It has developed shadow banking systems, alternative oil buyers, and sanction evasion infrastructure across 4 decades. A sanctioned Iranian supertanker passed through the Strait of Hormuz this week, despite the naval blockade. The blockade that redirected 33 ships did not stop it. Areli warned publicly that Iran's endurance may outlast American patience and domestic political support. The pressure campaign that assumes Iran breaks first has not yet confronted the possibility that Iran has already priced in the cost of waiting. The munitions question is the dimension of this conflict that official statements have most deliberately avoided. Defense analysts warned this week that 57 days of the most intensive American air campaign since 2003 has consumed precision-guided munitions, cruise missiles, bunker-busting bombs, and naval interceptors at a rate the American defense industrial base was not designed to replenish quickly. The specific stocks affected remain classified. But Trump said on Thursday that if talks fail, resumed American strikes would be bigger and stronger than anything anyone has seen. Bigger and stronger requires munitions that 57 days of strikes have already drawn down. That gap between the threat and the inventory is not a detail. It is a strategic constraint that no official has publicly addressed. The Lebanon dimension reached a critical threshold on Friday, directly connected to Iran's position on the Islamabad talks. Israel and Lebanon agreed to extend the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah by 3 weeks. Trump announced it after White House talks involving Vance, Rubio, and the Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors. Hezbollah was not in the room when the ceasefire covering its own operations was extended. On the same day the extension was announced, Hezbollah fired rockets into northern Israel, calling it a response to Israeli violations. Iran has insisted that any Iran-U.S. deal must include protection for Hezbollah. The U.S. says Lebanon is a separate track. Israel's Defense Minister Katz said publicly this week that Israel is ready and waiting for Washington's green light to return Iran to the Stone Age. Not denuclearization, not regime change. Stone Age. That is the publicly stated objective of America's closest regional partner, in a week when Witkoff and Kushner are flying to Islamabad for talks that Iran says do not exist. The State Department announced new sanctions Friday against Iran's oil network in China, targeting a major independent Chinese refinery and nearly 40 additional vessels, owners, and managers that have served as critical lifelines for Iranian oil exports. New China sanctions. On the same day as the Islamabad flight, on the same day as the Iran denial. The Trump administration is simultaneously running a naval blockade, sanctioning China, extending the Lebanon ceasefire without Hezbollah, flying to Islamabad for talks Iran says aren't happening, and watching oil rise above $15. These are not contradictory policies if you understand them as simultaneous pressure tracks. They are contradictory results if you measure them against the goal of getting Iran to reopen Hormuz on American terms. The human cost of a closed strait is no longer an abstraction. The World Food Program reported this week that food prices in Gaza are 85% higher than before the war began on February 28th. Sudan, which imports more than half of its fertilizer by sea through the Persian Gulf, has been forced to reroute shipments through the longer Red Sea corridor. The International Transport Workers Federation has received 1,900 requests for assistance from seafarers stranded in the Persian Gulf and their families since the war began. 1,900 people on ships that cannot move, waiting for an everlasting deal that has not been proposed, while mines sit in the water and the clock that would start the 6-month clearance countdown has not yet started. On Friday, it was disclosed that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu successfully underwent treatment for early-stage prostate cancer after a small tumor was detected. Netanyahu, who told Vance that the war's central sticking point was removing all enriched material from Iran and ensuring no enrichment for decades, who said the war is not over, whose defense minister is publicly waiting for the Stone Age green light, disclosed a cancer diagnosis in the same week that the ceasefire is being extended and the Islamabad talks are being disputed. Netanyahu's political and physical condition is now a variable in this war's trajectory that no analyst has formally incorporated into any timeline. The picture on day 57 is this. Witkoff and Kushner are flying to Islamabad. Iran's foreign minister is flying to Islamabad. Iran says there is no meeting. The White House says there is. Oil is above $15. The mines take 6 months to clear after the war ends. The war has not ended. The ceasefire is indefinite. The blockade runs as long as it takes. The munitions are under stress. The enrichment gap hasn't moved. A sanctioned supertanker passed through the blockade. China is being newly sanctioned. Israel is waiting for the Stone Age green light. Hezbollah fired rockets during the ceasefire extension. Netanyahu has cancer. And Trump said, "Don't rush me." We update this analysis every single day because this situation changes every single day. Before tomorrow's update drops, ask yourself this. Iran's foreign minister and the American delegation will both be in Islamabad on Saturday. Pakistan brokered the original ceasefire and hosted the first round of talks. If both sides are physically in the same city and Pakistan is in the room, does the distinction between direct talks and passing observations through a mediator still hold? And is Iran's statement that no meeting is planned the diplomatic formula that lets Iran meet with Americans without publicly admitting it? Drop your answer below. Every comment is read. The sharpest analysis gets featured. And if you want the daily verified picture of this war without the noise, you already know what to do.